Eyes of the earth. The Bleeding Tree. The scream was all. The laughter stopped immediately. It was the old Baldwin. I'd been told since childhood it was the first all-black graveyard in the area. My uncle told me that before Baldwin, the black residents of our town had to die somewhere else, which was fine with him. It was Halloween night, and I had stayed up to watch the World Series with some friends. We were 2 cases of cheap beer in before the talk shifted from the disappointing game to the holiday itself. Feeling safe in my basement of my suburban home, I boasted that I wasn't afraid of anything. A drink or 2 more, and there I was breaking into Baldwin. My small group of frat brothers stood leaning out the car doors. I don't really remember the drive, or the sudden stop into the ditch as we overshot the curb. The gates of Baldwin stood large in the darkness. The bolt cutters made swift work of the lock, and the forbidden sign of entry collapsed as the gates sunk in their hinges. I was laughing. We all were. My task was simple. Walk down the path to the only tree on the horizon. It was an old, twisted willow. The Bleeding Tree was its name. My uncle said that runaway slaves had been whipped under and then strung up from that tree. After the Confederacy fell, the town changed the name to the Weeping Tree to hide its gruesome history. I was to go into Baldwin, down the path to the Bleeding Tree, place my hand on the bark and say, "Bleeding, hanging, dead," 3 times, with my eyes closed. I was halfway down the path now. I had to stop to relieve myself on an overgrown grave marker. It was at that point the full moon crested the hills in the distance. The darkness opened slightly, and I could see the beer bottle I'd dropped on my way towards the tree. The headlights from the car were growing smaller, though it could have been a trick of the booze on my brain. I gave a loud shout of incoherent noise, more suitable for a sporting event than a cemetery, to prove I was all right, and received a chorus of hoots in return. That strengthened my resolve, and I continued down the narrow path as it wound around the headstones. Baldwin somehow slanted from all directions to form a basin at the center of which stood the Bleeding Tree. I was approaching the long, neglected ring of iron surrounding the tree when the car headlights cut out, and I was illuminated solely by moonlight. I gave a shout to my friends, but heard nothing in return. The silence became so thick and absolute I could hear the blood thudding through my eardrums. The pressure mounted, and I decided it was time to finish the joke and get back to the car. I jumped the small enclosure fence and walked up to the tree, slowly placing my hand on the trunk, and drew a deep breath. "Bleeding, hanging, dead," I muttered. Nothing. Growing confident, I repeated, "Bleeding, hanging, dead." Still no response. I took another deep breath and finished. "Bleeding, hanging, dead." I had forgotten to close my eyes, I realized. That's when I heard the scream. Long and loud. It didn't come from the path behind me, but from the tree above. Suddenly a flash of light, like white fire, burned my eyes. I stumbled back into the small fence and landed hard on my back. I collapsed into the cemetery earth, in the dark, on the cold ground. I started to laugh. It was uncontrollable and unstoppable. It was the sound madmen howl once they've broken from sanity. I laughed so hard my sides began to burn. The laughter was made all the more terrible by the fact that it had come unbidden from my own mouth. Tears were streaming openly down my cheeks, and just as I felt that my sides would split open, the laughter stopped. I was surrounded by silence again. A light that had originally been mistaken as coming from the moon began to shift and fade. A sudden mist rolling into Baldwin. I felt colder than I'd ever felt before. Crack! A sudden onslaught of pain, a pale whip swinging wildly through the air. Crack! Crack! I felt the flesh being torn from my side. I curled into the fetal position to block the phantom attacker. Crack! 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 A blinding light paralyzed me. I could hear voices all around me. Suddenly my throat was on fire, and I felt an extreme pressure close around my neck. I was choking, and as I struggled feverishly to loosen the unseen knot, I was jerked off the ground violently. I kicked and kicked the thin air. My eyes, which had been forced shut by the maddening pain, now shot wide open. Despite my desperate desire to keep from seeing the source of the now multitudinous voices surrounding me in the night, what I saw will haunt me for the rest of my life. There were countless men and women surrounding me. There were children smiling at me through rotted teeth. All dead. All smiling. I lost control of myself and was close to passing out from lack of oxygen when I heard voices simultaneously chant, "Dead, dead, dead, dead." As I swung in circles desperately, looking to find something to stand on, I saw at least half a dozen other bodies swinging from the tree. In one final frantic gaze, I looked and saw the blood streaming down the bark. I was choking on my final scream when I was suddenly thrown outside the circle. I landed hard on my side and gasped for air in huge fits. I didn't take the time to look back, but shot to my feet and ran faster than I thought possible up the path. I exploded through the gates to the sound of my friends singing Sweet Caroline. I shouted that we had to get the hell out of there immediately and didn't wait for their response. I pushed into the driver's seat and slammed hard on the gas, leaving Baldwin Cemetery behind me. Later, when I had shared my story of the night's events with my friends, they laughed. I couldn't stand it. I remembered that horrible laughter that had come out pouring from my own mouth, and it made me sick. I had too much to drink and just passed out, they told me. The scratches on my side were from hitting some grave marker as I went down. I probably had a bad dream and scared myself waking up to find I had been in Baldwin Cemetery. It was at that point, when I thought I'd gone crazy, that one of them went pale. He stared at me as though he'd lost all reason. I jumped off the chair I'd been sitting in and ran to the mirror. I could see thin marks peeking over the top of my collar. I pulled off my shirt in a fury to find rope burns all around the base of my neck. The room went silent. I fell to my knees, closed my eyes, and screamed. Hello, everyone. Ice of the Arctic here. I just wanted to briefly apologize for this not being out on Halloween. It was a little hectic here, but thanks for bearing with me. I also wanted to say thank you so much for 214 subscribers. I never expected to receive this much attention to my channel, and I am so happy you guys love my content. There will hopefully be more uploads and activity here soon, so please stay tuned for more, as I'm hopefully going to be uploading more narrations, voice acting pieces, and some of my own stories here soon. If you guys have anything in particular you want me to narrate, please send me the story at howlerofthenight@gmail.com. If you guys are new to the channel, please hit that like button and subscribe for more, as there will be more coming very soon. Again, guys, thank you so much for watching and subscribing. This is Ice of the Arctic, signing out. Stay spooky, my friends. Ice of the Arctic.